Damn it. Well, that was the weirdest dinner I've ever been on. Anyway, today we're looking at this indie RPG called Lime Stenched Dirt. This is one of those games that was requested to me by one of you guys in my community posts. I take all game recommendations seriously, so feel free to suggest games for me to look at. Lime Stenched Dirt, though. I have never heard of this game, and it doesn't seem like many other people have either. If there's a somewhat obscure or surreal indie game out there, you can usually count Nitrorad to have a video on it, but not even he's talked about this.
Yeah, looks like this is one we beat you to.
The only videos I can find about this are the release trailer and the soundtrack for the game, which were obviously uploaded by the game's creator, Flesh Smoothie. I wonder if they have a sibling named Meat Crayon. Flesh Smoothie actually has a couple games up on their itch.io page, and yeah, if you were wondering, this game is only available on itch. I can't say I've played that many games on itch, and the ones I have played are strange and bizarre titles like Gloom Puke, or something on the complete opposite side of the spectrum like Kamala Tale. This costs $5 to play, by the way. That's enough getting sidetracked, though. What kind of game even is Lime Stenched Dirt? Well, to put it simply, Lime Stenched Dirt is an RPG Maker game, made in RPG Maker 2003 to be precise, about this robot girl named Liza. She's awoken in this dank and crusty room with two objectives: head east and make some friends. That's all that's given to you in the first minutes of the game, but obviously there's much more going on here beneath the surface. As you explore, you'll find out that this area seems to be a hotel that has seen better days. It seems like only monsters live here now, and if you get in their way, they won't waste time ripping you to shreds. Thankfully, Liza happens to be a super fighting robot that was blessed with the power to kick the crap out of enemies. As she fights her way out of the hotel, we finally get a good look at what the outside world looks like, and the visuals are actually pretty nice. It almost made me overlook the fact that the water looks like tar and there's a bunch of unplugged TVs everywhere. No townspeople, no quirky tutorial characters, but we still have plenty of monsters hanging around. Despite the danger, Liza continues east until she suddenly comes across a girl that also happens to be lost in this wasteland. This girl's name is Maeve, and she's just as confused as you are about this whole situation. Since she's the first actual person that Liza comes across, the two decide that it'd be safer to travel together since Maeve can hold her own in combat just fine. Except no, she can't because she does like no damage, dude, what the heck. Still, the more the merrier, and soon enough Liza and Maeve find themselves at a train station that happens to head east. They hop aboard the train and decide that they should probably get to know each other a little bit. Liza explains her mission of needing to head east for some reason, which rightfully has Maeve intrigued. Maeve's story is that she just wanted to get away from her home, and with how she talks about it, it seems like there's some negative history there. Since Maeve would rather be anywhere else but home, she decides that she'll just tag along on Liza's journey east to see what awaits there. With the two joining forces, the structure of this game becomes pretty straightforward. This game is split into 4 chapters, and each chapter has Liza and Maeve reaching a new area, solving the problem, or meeting a character that can help them get further east. Some of the characters they meet are definitely a little strange. Video games can be so weird sometimes. And later on, they even meet a third-party member named Salvador that owns a music store despite the fact that there's no one left in this world to actually buy the music. While this game's narrative may seem simple, just heading east, where this game really shines is the characters and the mystery behind them. When you're introduced to these guys, everything is as vague as possible when it comes to who they are as people and what purpose they serve in the grander narrative. Liza's a robot, so who built her? Why was she created? What's waiting for her at the east end of the world? Why is the world so messed up? Where did Maeve come from, and what's causing her to run away? What's Salvador's connection to any of this? These are the questions that plague your mind as you play this, and all those questions have an answer, but some of those answers will make you wish you never asked. That's why I've decided to cut off the plot summary here, because ultimately I think Lime Stenched Dirt is a game that's best experienced with minimal knowledge going in. I'm not saying you have to go in blind, because I just explained some of the core elements of the game to you, but watching the story unfold is one of the more rewarding aspects of this game. Because yeah, it turns out that the emotional moments hit harder when you don't know about them, wow. Some of you might be wondering why I don't just do a spoiler segment where I dive deeper into the story and its themes, but I'm against that for 2 reasons. 1, this is probably the only video out about this game at the time of this video, and I don't want this video to serve as a replacement for actually playing the game yourself. And 2, this game is only 3 hours long, so if I did explain the story like that, it would literally just be a screen-by-screen recap of what you do in this game, and I don't think that'd be very interesting. Like, dude, can you imagine if I just make a video where I'm like, in chapter 1, Liza goes to Burger King to try the Maple Bourbon Barbecue Whopper, and then in chapter 2, she goes to West Baltimore to get some crab cakes? Nah, man, I'm good on that. To give my non-spoiler filled thoughts on the overall story for those who want to know what I thought about it, I thought it was cute. Despite the bleak setting, the characters do a good job of keeping things positive and charming enough so things don't get too depressing. Even if she's a robot, Liza is still a character that feels just as much as anyone else, and seeing her relationships with the rest of the cast grow as the game goes on is definitely one of the highlights. Maeve is pretty positive, and she does a good job of reeling Liza back in when she starts to have doubts about her mission. Salvador to me is like if Queen from Deltarune just put on Rousey's outfit and wandered into a different game. I mean that in a good way, by the way. I actually really like how goofy Salvador can be. Also, I didn't realize this until someone in one of the reviews on this game's itch page pointed it out, but the first letter of every word that Liza says is capitalized for some reason. That is such a weirdly specific character quirk, but I think it's kind of funny. What helps the story a lot is definitely the presentation. Flesh Smoothie did everything for this game: music, gameplay, visuals, and it's clear to see that Flesh Smoothie is a pretty good artist. The monsters in this game remind me a lot of Off, and it makes sense when you consider that they're inspired by all the big juicy RPG Maker games. I wish I could say more about the soundtrack, but just like Off, it's one of those things that works in the context of the game, but it's a little too atmospheric for me to want to listen to it outside of it. Not bad, but not really my thing. But we should all know by now that story, visuals, music, none of that matters if the gameplay just straight up sucks. Thankfully, Lime Stenched Dirt's gameplay is good. It's RPG Maker 2003, so it's definitely limited, but with how small the screens are in this game, you won't really miss things like diagonal movement. Later on, Maeve tells Liza to walk faster, and boom, now you can just run for the rest of the game. In terms of overworld stuff, the game is pretty light on puzzles, but the ones it does have are pretty simple if you just pay attention to your surroundings. Still though, there are plenty of little floppy disks to find if you have a knack for exploration, with some nice armor and weapon upgrades for your characters. What worried me the most about this game was the combat. Those who know me know that I'm not the biggest fan of combat in RPG Maker games. I just feel like it's always the weakest aspect of these games since a lot of it feels so mindless. And Lime Stenched Dirt wasn't giving me much hope at first, since Liza early on is so limited, and RPG combat with one party member is never really that exciting. Things definitely do pick up when Maeve joins though, and after you beat this sexy, chattering teeth toy thing, you gain access to your classic special abilities like fire, thunder, healing, etc. This is where the combat really opens up, because most enemies have weaknesses to certain elements, and if you don't figure out what those weaknesses are quick, some of these guys will have you on the floor in no time. I never game overed in this game because I'm a hardcore gamer, but some battles definitely had me sitting up. There are even some gimmick fights that give you different stipulations on how to complete the fight. The frequent save points restore your mana, so never feel bad about going all out with expensive attacks just to give enemies a taste of their own medicine. The way you learn special abilities is a little strange though. Instead of learning new skills as you level up, or catching a fever, you have to buy new skills at save points. So if you want Liza to learn how to heal herself, or if you want Salvador to have a hard-hitting ice attack, you better be ready to cough up some cash. There are a lot of different moves you can buy, and if you're a fan of classic RPGs, you may recognize the system from some of the classic Final Fantasy games. I never minded it there, and I don't really mind it here, especially again because this game is so short. I didn't have enough to buy every attack, but the priorities were definitely met. Liza is the main physical attacker, kicking people with her Tims. Once you get her set up with some speed ups and attack ups going on, she'll be taking care of enemies and bosses like no one's business. Maeve is the dedicated special attacker. Her physical attacks are nothing special, but give her access to thunder and there's no one else I trust more with my beloved Big Mac. Salvador is a nice mix between the two. Think of them as Pooh from Earthbound. Salvador can definitely work as a physical attacker, but they can also serve as a backup healer when things get a little hairy. Every party member serves a purpose, and near the end of the game when things get more challenging, I had some fun with how active you have to be with some of these bosses. The worst aspect of this battle system is definitely waiting for it to all become available, because I want to say the first 30 minutes of this game is just going to be basic punches and kicks. But trust me, you gotta let it cook. Obviously most RPGs are not going to give you access to everything at the start, but with how quick people are to drop games these days, it can be hard to convince a lot of people to stick with some games. Even RPGs I love are victims of the dreaded slow start. If you can stomach some early RPG combat, I think you'll find the mid-game stuff pretty stimulating. I'm not saying that this is the greatest RPG combat that you'll ever experience, but it is good enough to not hold the game back in any major way, I think. Also, I didn't know where to mention this, but a lot of the sound effects from this game are just taken straight from Earthbound. Listen man, whenever I hear something from Earthbound and other places, something in my brain activates. I don't really know how else to describe it. The special attacks in this game are even referred to as PSI techniques, which is just the icing on the cake. Just a shame that Liza can't learn PK Fecal, but hey, what are we gonna do? Man, we all love Earthbound, come here you. But that's Lime Stenched Dirt. It's short and sweet, and something I think you should check out if you've got an afternoon to kill. Again, if there's more obscure games out there you want me to cover next, just let me know. This was a nice little diversion, but next time we'll be going back to Mega Man. I may or may not hit 1,000 subs by the time this video goes up, but if I do, I at least want to get that Mega Man 2 video out before I start working on the Cog Disc one. I have a feeling that video might be as long as the Mother 2 Deluxe one, if not longer, so please give me some time on that one. I have a life outside of YouTube, you know. As always, thank you all for supporting me, and please remember to stay fun, guys.